Tired of dealing with annoying flies, fruit flies, and gnats in your home? The Zevo flying insect trap is your ultimate solution. Don't wait. Check out the link in the video description now to get your Zevo flying insect trap on Amazon and enjoy a bug-free home today.
Donald Trump looked like a deflated Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz when he arrived in Palm Beach after losing the 2020 election and moving out of the White House, according to a new book. The former president is described as having been unmoored, unsettled, unpopular and in exile, in the days after leaving office and reluctantly handing the reins over to successor Joe Biden. Author and Politico national correspondent Meredith McGraw lays bare his struggle to adjust to life post-presidency and coming to terms with his defeat, in new book, Trump in Exile, set to be released on August 6. After flying on Air Force One for the last time on January 20, 2021, Trump stepped off the plane in Florida to a radically different existence. He bitterly retreated to Palm Beach where he was angry, frustrated, staring down a second impeachment, unsure of how to fill his days, she writes. Shunned by the Republican Party and the nation because of his actions on January 6, Trump was bewildered and crestfallen as he tried to come to terms with being a loser. He was left fuming by the indignities resulting from his defeat, such as no longer being able to summon his favorite drink Diet Coke at the press of a button and dealing with a chaotic staff. At one point he even tried to arrange for a press pool to address the media, just to be told that only sitting presidents had that privilege. McGraw's vivid picture of Trump's days after leaving the White House is a striking contrast to his fortunes now, almost 4 years later. The 45th president, who was officially declared the Republican Party's nominee in the upcoming presidential election on Thursday, has been on a hot streak after favorable rulings by the Supreme Court on presidential immunity and the dismissal of his documents case in Florida. The first presidential debate last month also helped bolster his image after a shocking performance by opponent Joe Biden, 81, raised fears and questions about whether the oldest sitting president is fit for re-election. And Trump's survival of an assassination attempt last Saturday has only further hardened the resolve of his followers, with polls suggesting that he is likely to beat Biden and take back the White House in November's election. But back in January 2021, Trump had been cast aside by the general public thanks to the January 6 insurrection, McGraw writes. She describes the situation as unprecedented and bizarre that led to Trump being in a political limbo of his own making. In a breach of tradition, Trump did not attend Biden's inauguration and instead took his final flight on Air Force One to Palm Beach. One aide who was on the flight called the mood weird and bittersweet. Flight attendants served steak and eggs with grits and Trump stayed in an office near the front of the plane by himself. Jason Miller, one of his closest aides, tried to reassure him by saying, "You're not going anywhere. You're still the big dog." But the sparsely staffed plane was already a contrast to the buzz of the White House. McGraw writes that Trump landed in Palm Beach a former president, looking like a deflated Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She writes that Trump was bewildered and crestfallen at the change in his status. According to McGraw, everyone in Washington thought Trump ought to stay there, Mar-a-Lago, for good. She writes, the Republican Party was ready to break free of the MAGA movement and a man who had turned the entire country on its head. But there was a surprise for everyone. Hundreds of Trump supporters lined the streets all the way back to Mar-a-Lago cheering for him. According to one Trump aide, it was packed with people the whole way. And I think at that moment he realized, they're still with me. The people are still with me. Upon Trump's return to Florida, aides and staff at Mar-a-Lago formed a kind of cocoon around Trump to cushion the blow of his electoral rebuke. They encouraged Trump to show up at the weddings of guests which were being held at Mar-a-Lago, where he would get standing ovations. Trump took to DJing on a private Spotify account at public events where he would play songs by Elton John and the Rolling Stones, as well as Frank Sinatra. McGraw writes, Trump was wrapped in a world inside the walls of Mar-a-Lago that reinforced everything that Trump believed about himself. He swaddled himself in the